So, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Lovely People webinar. And look at all these lovely people. So, our guest tonight is the lovely Christian McNeill. It's really lovely to see you, Christian. So, I know we met at an event in Birmingham. I can't remember whether we'd already met then, whether we met at Ticken.
I think we'd met at Ticken before that.
Mm-hmm. I think we'd met before that as well.
But which would be about 6 or 7 years ago.
Oh my goodness. How time flies. So I would really love you to share with everyone, if you don't mind, a little bit about you and how you came across this understanding. Do you mind doing that for us?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Cool.
So I, before I came across this understanding, which was about 7 or 8 years ago, I kind of had two lives, if you like. So on the one hand, I was a lawyer, and latterly I had quite a senior job, and you know, that was all fine. That was I was just doing my thing. And then the other side was that in my 20s, I had a drinking problem, and I got sober in AA, and from then on, I became very interested in the mind, in spirituality, having been not at all interested in those things at all before that. But because of I suppose, the nature of that path, the two were quite kind of separate. I mean, there was, it wasn't that I was like super secretive about my recovery life or my interest in other things, but it was a bit, they certainly were fairly distinct, and I spent a lot of time, but I spent about 20 years really kind of struggling to doing a lot of work, as it were, to feel better. I became very invested in, self-improvement, because that's what I believed you needed to do. And I was willing to do whatever it took to have a better life than, how things were towards the end of that period of drinking, when I wasn't like I suppose a sort of classic drunk in any ways. And I don't say that to big myself up, but just how it was. The way it affected me was not that I was intellectually impaired, and I wasn't particularly affected physically, but I was certainly affected emotionally. I was, a real kind of basket case at the end of that period. Not what you find about And today, with the benefit of hindsight, I see that what happened to me was a moment of clarity, or an insight, way back then. Mm-hmm. So in this period of my 20s, I'd begun to suspect that all was not well with my drinking, and that normal people didn't do some of the things that I was doing, or end up in the situations that I was ending up in. And I knew about AA. A friend of mine had got sober, one of my closest friends from university, strange to relate, birds of a feather and all that. And I just thought, I so didn't want to stop drinking. Scotland, where I live, is a very boozy culture. Everything revolves around booze. And I just so didn't want that. I really wanted my life to get better with it, but just to be able to drink more moderately. And it just seems that wasn't what was on offer, and I reached a stage, where I was one particular moment. In fact, it was one day, but it was one moment, and I got myself far, far drunker than I intended to. And for me, one of the markers of addiction is this loss of control thing. You set out with good intentions, and you end up in the gutter somehow. And again, social drinkers don't do that. So I was more or less in the gutter a week before Christmas, tripping home, and I caught sight of myself, a reflection, and it looked as though my face had melted, my makeup running down, and what I, how I looked and how I felt, and I just despised what I'd become. And in that moment, I mean, again, this is with the benefit of hindsight, because you don't really know that it's going to be a permanent shift. But in that moment, I completely gave up, and I thought, I just can't do this anymore. And I am willing to do whatever it takes to have a better life, including stopping drinking. And when I say including stopping drinking, it implies that I got some kind of power over it, and I didn't. But what changed after that, and from that day to this, almost 30 years on, I no longer found myself waking up in the morning saying, well, I'm not going to drink today, and I'm going to get on with my work, and I'm not going to smoke, and then finding that everything had gone by the board by lunchtime. None of that happened anymore. It was all, it had this kind of loss of control thing had been removed. I wasn't compelled to drink. And so, that was my first big life-changing insight. And I didn't have that language for it then, but I do now. And as I say, I worked very hard at the whole recovery thing, because that's what I thought I had to do. And I was willing to, but I sort of didn't recognise, like, I've already had a big gift from the universe, if you like, of this transformation. And I don't sort of need to work to get that, if you know what I mean. It's already happened. But anyway, it was what it was. As I say, I sort of struggled, and I just kept adding more and more things in to try and medicate that struggle, if you like. So I'd learned to meditate, and then I was supposed to do meditation twice a day for 20 minutes, and and that was fine for a while. And then I was back in the sort of struggle, and things being difficult, and an internal struggle. So I came across morning pages, the artist's way in morning pages. So I do my 3 pages of journaling every morning. And I had these 2 young kids. I don't know how I fitted it all in. And then I was supposed to do my, meditative sort of contemplative walk every day, and blah, 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 and get to so many meetings and all of this stuff. And of course, I couldn't keep up with it. I mean, there's endless balls in the air. I just couldn't keep up with it. So then that added to my thinking. I didn't see it like that then, but then, then I was criticizing and beating myself up because I wasn't doing all the things to help me, and blaming. And so I was now blaming that for my lack of peace of mind and serenity. And I'm painting a dark picture because it wasn't all like that. And there were times where I just fell into that place of being really serene and okay, and irrespective of what was going on, just deeply at peace and connected. But I couldn't kind of join the dots of those. I thought that I would get more of those if I took more action. And then I started training in different things. So I trained in Reiki, did Reiki 1 and 2. I did hypnotherapy. I did NLP master practitioner. Just adding things. Because I kept thinking that I'm just, it's not quite there yet. It's one more thing. And about 7 or 8 years ago, I came across a thing that Jamie Smart was doing, was grow your practice with integrity. So I have that. I've still got this life, this two-part life going on, and I've got a tiny coaching business on the one side, and my main career is law. My main income is law. But I thought NLP had been the best thing so far that I had found in terms of improving my state of mind or my mood. And I went on this thing thinking it was going to be about growing my NLP practice. And that was my kind of 10-year plan, to just sort of, once my kids have been through university and all that, I can leave law and do this. Anyway, of course, it was actually all about the principles. Not sure how much integrity that wasn't even mentioned, but never mind. It was, to my benefit. It was possibly the best thing that I've ever come across. No, not possibly, most definitely. And it was in that first weekend, I heard so much, and I knew that this is it. I found what I've been looking for. Now, there is a bit of revisionism going on here because I've got the benefit of hindsight now, and I can articulate things that I couldn't then. But but I did know that this is what I've been looking for.
Mm.
And some of the things that really resonated, I think, that I was clear about, then and since, was, well, one is that you're not broken. All this stuff is beside the point. You are whole and complete, and all the answers you need are within you. And it wasn't said in a kind of mystical Buddhist, I can't even pronounce that word, peon kind of way. What does that mean? How do I get to it? There was a sense of, they're within me, and this will help you to find those answers. That wisdom is within you. It's I don't think it's necessarily an original part of Sid's work, but something that helped me enormously was, I don't know, either Jamie or Aaron, who were teaching on that weekend, did a little sort of diagram of, this up and down, up and down, up and down thing, and said that all human beings did do this. And I can't tell you how helpful that was, just recognizing, oh, yes, they do. That's me. I've been trying to kind of sort of ascend in, levels of consciousness, mood, I don't know what. But I get this, and there is nothing wrong with that. I love that. I embrace it. I'm really comfortable of doing that to the end of my days. It was such and somehow, I don't know whether it was that first weekend, but very soon after that, I saw that what I have been doing is kind of joining the dots of all the low points in my life. And it was almost as though the higher points, I mean, I'm using low and high, but, I don't mean that literally, but the better points, the better times, the clearer, more creative times, it was as though those just didn't exist. And, as though I had quite innocently and automatically, but as though I had been so focused on my problems. And I suppose it just all came together, the recognition that we're not broken, variability is the normal, it's inevitable, and it opened up the whole picture for me, and there was nowhere to get to, and there was nothing wrong with having a low mood or an angry mood or a depressed mood or an anxious mood. They were all just part of the human experience. And I often speak about this. Very soon after that weekend, I came home and my dad became terminally ill. Well, he obviously actually was, but we discovered he was really ill, and he died within weeks of that. And I could not begin to explain why, but I knew I was being really helped by the limited understanding that I had of the principles already through that. It was such a spiritual experience. I mean, even I can feel my, goose pimples, and I feel close to tears, but I felt such love for him, and so close to him. I mean, and my kids were able to, be with me, with him, with us, a lot of the time. And I say, even now, I guess I would struggle to explain that, although maybe I've got more of a handle on it. But I knew I was being helped by that, and I knew I was having a very different experience than my sisters and brother were. And I've heard other people talk about similar sort of things, and I don't know whether it's just that there's more of an awareness of our spiritual essence. I mean, not even one that's conscious or articulated, but more. Maybe there's less obscuring of that, and but it really was a very powerful experience, and I'm so glad that it happened that that way around. That I came to this before he died, and my mother died the following year, and I had a much more difficult relationship with her, but I was still able to be really present and as helpful as I could be. I mean, my other sisters were doing much more than I was. I was able to do, sort of cut through. She had a terrible time and through the medical the hospitals and so on. She was really messed around and was in a lot of pain and distress. And I was able to sort of cut through that from time to time and kind of help her. And, so that, those were big things. And all this time I was still, after this first weekend, in terms of my, my life, I was still, well, in fact, it was now like the 10-year plan had taken a step backwards, because all this training and certificates that I had I realized were now essentially useless to me. I mean, I'm not saying that there's no value, but I mean, I just knew that in my heart of hearts that I could not, with any authenticity or integrity, be offering hypnotherapy or NLP, and I knew it was back to the drawing board in terms of training. And there was almost nothing. I was about to say there's almost nothing going on in Scotland. There was nothing going on in Scotland, so I was down to London, to Tikkun, and which is where it was centred at that point, and so there were one or two things in England and some online stuff, and I just grasped everything I could, and then
that's how come we met.
Yeah, exactly, did in time I did intensives with Elsie and with Aaron, and just whatever trainings I could find, and then a couple of years after that, so I'm still on this is my broad trajectory of about my life, although it's now centered around the principles. But I had the most extraordinary time over those 2 years, not just the death of my parents, but other huge things happened. And I don't know if you remember Linda Ramus saying to us, Deb, if this thing gets you, if these principles grab you, everything in your life is going to change. That your job, the people, where you live, and someone had said that to her, and that had been how it turned out. And that's what happened to me in those first few years. I had some extraordinary health issues. Now, I won't go into it in detail because it's not that interesting, but one was very painful and one was said to be life-threatening. It turned out later not to be. But in both of those, I was completely at peace, completely, for no good reason. I mean, if it happened tomorrow, I might not be at peace. I'm not claiming ownership but it was just the way it came out. And sort of long story, there were all sorts of other things happening, but my job offered me a package at that after a couple of years, and nobody's ever been offered this before. I didn't have to take it, and I think some of my colleagues were astonished that I would, this is a very sort of secure, well-paid job, but to me it was just a no-brainer. It sort of gave me a cushion to start to do what I really want to do, which was work with other people, share this stuff, and share this understanding. And so by the end of that time, I'm out of the job, and since then I have been, in one way or another, kind of attempting to the best of my ability to share these principles in whatever way shows up. So that's been for something like 5 years, 5.5 years, something like that. And I have collaborated with, or worked with, or invited as sort of senior partner kind of thing, just loads and loads of people, and attempted to spread this a bit in Scotland. I would have to say it's still quite slow. Maybe that's down to me. I don't know. It's not a huge community, but it's just gently growing and growing, and there are other people and who have come in all sorts of different routes and are now working in Scotland as well. So yeah, and it's not necessarily gone the way I thought it would. One of the other things just what a surprise. Who knew?
It didn't work out exactly as you planned.
Exactly.
Oh
my god.
Oh my gosh, I wouldn't have spoken to you if I knew you were going to say that. You're the only one who said their life didn't go exactly the way they planned it.
Well, I thought, because of my background, because my previous work in law I did a lot of work in crime, and you know, I was always working with people with problems. It was the sharp end of law very much in my so, and the outcomes for communities and the outcomes for recidivism in some of the studies like Modelo and Coliseum Gardens had really struck me early on. And I kind of thought there might be an interest in that in Scotland. And I spent months, years probably going to conferences and meeting with people and prison governors and people who worked in probation and all sorts of things. And it was astonishing. It was, they'd say, yeah, it's really interesting, right? You know, yeah. And it was like, next, just not interested in. I don't, you know, and I know there are other people who are taking this forward in different areas of the country, but it's not, I you know, I could have my theories about why that is. And at first I thought it was to do with, you know, not enough evidence, or, you know, just get, you know, get slicker in the presentation. And I don't think it's that at all. I think, you know, there's something about the people who are meant to hear this, and that's not down to me. You know, it's not about, you know, being more Tony Robbins or, I don't know, you know, more anybody. It's just, my job is to show up, share what I know, you know, listen to, you know, the person in front of me, have a conversation with them, and that's it. You know, well, that's how I see it. I know that there are different views that we, you know, and I'm sure I could be a more effective marketer or more consistent with any number of things, but you know, it feels much more relaxed when I'm willing to just allow life to unfold. I'm willing to be of service wherever that might be. I have been taken care of. You know, I mean, I have a very unextravagant lifestyle. Having said that, you know, but I've been taken care of, and I feel, well, that's just, you know, my job is just to be willing to be of service, to be willing to share this, to be willing to connect, and connect in love with people, you know, not to lay it on them, to be, you know, to be open to
not to bash people over the head and force
yeah.
Which that's us. That's what we're yeah, so, it can be tempting, can't it, to kind of be like, know this.
and of course, and I'm sure there's lots of times where I have strayed beyond that, but you know, that's kind of how I see it. And one of the things that's been nice is, because, well, I'll say two things to finish. One is that it seemed to me initially, I wasn't sure how to marry this with my experience of recovery and in that world, because nobody wants to be told what you're doing is rubbish and I've got something much better, you know. So, but I found a way to share this, I think, you know, to begin to share this with people in that arena that's not, that isn't saying everything you're doing is wrong, and everything that is being done in recovery is not wrong either, but you have to find the commonality, to point people to their wholeness, and to that the still small voice within, you know, that people resonate with truth, you know, they hear that, and I don't need to say anything about the bits I don't agree with. You know, it's like just I can share authentically from my heart, but in a way that serves that situation if I'm in it. And more generally, what I love, one of the things I love about my life today is it's not in two parts anymore. It's all, you know, it's all one. There's no sort of secret part. And, you know, it was a slow process to put stuff on my, you know, my own main Facebook page that was anything to do with the principles, because I was still kind of keeping, I thought, you know what, lots of people think I'm a nutcase anyway, you know. And you don't know who is going to be the one that's touched, or who's the one that hears something, or who's the one that you might have something to offer. And a client said to me recently, you know, if we've got all the answers within us, what is the point of coaching? You know, and which is a great question, you know, since I'm charging him my time. and I said, well, you know, I don't think coaching is essential. There are many ways to get this. Sid Banks had a spontaneous insight. Other people do as well, to greater or lesser extents. But I said, I know for me that I wouldn't have had the quality of life that I've had for the last whatever number of years without people. This is my sense. I wouldn't have had that without people pointing me in the direction, or having those conversations, or just hanging out in that place of well-being and contentment and deep connection. That's my sense, and so it's a privilege to be that. That's what my life's about today. It really is a privilege.
I love your story, and there's so many things you said that I can so relate to. You read my story and she's pinched it. There's so many places where I've had very, very similar experiences. So thank you for sharing that. What would you say has been, if someone said to you, what's had the biggest impact on you? What's changed the most, or have been the biggest thing for you since this, or even if it wasn't since the understanding, that maybe you've recognized since you understand what's happened, sort of how life works?
Well, the reason I was talking about the experience of getting sober is that although that predated all of this by more than 20 years, an understanding of the three principles explained to me that insight is this incredible human phenomenon that can show up anywhere at any time. So I got a new past with the principles. I got to notice all the bits that I airbrushed out, but I got to see that there had been other insights that weren't so life-changing, perhaps, but it was a phenomenon that had been showing up throughout my life. So that was, I really. I think that particular one saved my life for sure. Way back then. That the experience of that first weekend of just hearing truth, was phenomenal. That really was a life-changing weekend, without doubt. And although right then I knew that I'm in, I've found the answer, and I'm going to be involved in this somehow. I thought, what as a consumer, if you like, but for the rest of my life, I knew that then, and I'm no longer searching. And I also knew that, but I didn't for a minute think I know everything there is to know about it. I knew it was going to be going deeper and deeper, but the other thing I hadn't realized is just how powerful some of those further changes would be. So a couple of years on, or maybe 3, who knows, a few years on, I came across Keith and Valda's teaching, and Keith was a mentor for a couple of years. And that was really profound. Again, it would be difficult, it was almost almost as significant as the first exposure, because when I saw that, here's one example. I was on a call with Keith, and there was chaos in my house. I was going off, and my heating was just about exploding. And the guy from the gas board was due to arrive during the call. Which I said, my precious kind of. And I'm saying to Keith, well, I'm a bit stressed. I know it's my thinking. I'm a bit stressed because blah 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 is happening. And Keith said to me, "Does a broken boiler have the power to create stress in a human being?" And it was like something, a penny dropped, that until that point I'd kind of given lip service to my feeling as being created with it. I didn't think it was coming from anywhere else, but I hadn't really seen what was an offer. And in that moment, all the stress disappeared, and I was in a place of complete neutrality. So the guy did still show up, and the boiler was still broken, but I went from being stressed and saying, I know it's my thinking, to being not stressed, to being in a sort of deep spiritual place of connection. But more than that, what that insight gave me, and you know, it was an insight that was probably consequent on a lot of conversations with Keith. What that insight gave me was total faith that whatever happens in my life, the potential exists for me to be in that neutral spiritual space in the face of it. Not to say that I will, but just like the hospital things before, but because the potential is there, that gave me faith. That what I would describe what has existed since then is faith, or you could call it security. And you know that, so I know that I will never feel anything, or nothing outside me has the power to create a feeling, and I will never feel anything other than is what's going through me, and even then it will be thought. So it was really, it's difficult to I don't know if anyone else has had that experience, but it's you know, just that so that was huge as well. You know, that was a sort of that was really huge.
So quite often we have people, I know that I have quite a lot of people that listen to the replays of these webinars, and a lot of them are people who are very new to this understanding. So what would you say to somebody who's kind of listening to this and they're really, really new, they've just sort of come across the principles, or you know, they're looking in this direction? What can you share that you think might be helpful to someone quite new to this?
Well, I would say follow your curiosity, you know, what go with what you like. You know, just get curious, Google it, you know, follow this one and follow that one that you like. Don't bother with anything you don't like, just put it in the back burner. You know, don't get into a debate about it. I think one can certainly overdo it and overthink it. But the truth is, probably since I came across this, and not that I'm a particularly quick study, I've got to say, fully accept that. But the truth is, since I came across this, whatever number of years ago, it probably hasn't been a day gone by that I haven't listened to something or read something, and I enjoy it. You know, I have. I'm not reading it in the way that I was studying for my law exams, or, you know, practicing for my driving test. But I have. I guess it's a bit like learning a language, and you know, we all learn at different stages. But it's probably not a 5-minute conversation, to quote Valda. So, you know, and it's just enjoy go with what works, go with what feels good, go with, you know, it's developing. It's about what's fun, what's light-hearted. What's connecting, and what you're curious about. That's what I'd say. And I don't think there's any one way to go.
I love that. I think that's great. I think that's a really good thing to say. And Derek, you know, it's really fun. The reason we do these webinars, we just like to have fun. I think it's, you know, it's really good to just go to that light place, speak to some amazing people, and just have some fun, laugh at yourself. Yeah, I do that a lot. What, laugh at me? Yeah, no, that's great. So shall we just see if anyone that's on the call has got a question?
Oh, that'd be lovely.
Give anyone a chance if they want, because I can often, I can start talking and not let anyone get a word in edgeways. So if there's anyone here, if you're muted, if you can either unmute yourself, or you can wave at me if you've got your picture on there, and I will unmute you. So has anyone got a question, anything they would like to ask the lovely Christian? See, you've satisfied everyone already.
Bobby, I thought you were about to come in there. Bobby and I have such...
No, I was just checking. I have low vision, so I saw something was on the chat box, but then I clicked on it and I can't read it. So I didn't know if somebody was chatting.
It's from one of the people on the call. They just said she hasn't got her camera on because she's got her robe on because she's just had a lovely massage.
Okay, so this is just for pleasure. That's the whole point. Yes. Now, Christian, I just, to just add a bit, I'm sitting here with my thing muted because I'm laughing and smiling and gesturing and getting, like little bubble insights as opposed to the big explosions. But just that learning more about just being in the rooms of the three principles, for me, it's just about listening to somebody reading a happy story rather than a work assignment. And for the first year after I was exposed to this, actually on Salt Spring Island, which is insane, I was working so hard that I didn't have a snowball's chance of getting it. Because I was working, and the only thing that kept me going was I knew I didn't get it, and I knew I wanted it, and I knew I didn't get it. I mean, like, I usually do give up pretty easily. I'm not your typical pit bull, but I knew I wanted the punchline of this massive joke, which is the way we're designed. It's like we're given a kitchen knife and you can grab whichever end you want. And I had, and I had spent so many years grabbing the wrong end of the knife going, damn, why does this hurt so much? And then Sid gloriously said, well, you could turn it around if you want to and grab the wooden end. It cracks me up. And I too, like Christian, I have had a lot of experience in the 12-step AA community. And I find it so easy to marry the two because, you look for things that are true and that they have in common. And, the whole point of a 12-step community is to offer people hope. When somebody runs out of it, somebody loans you some, because you forgot that, you forgot that you were up in your head because it seemed so real. And we just, we're not all crazy on the same day, which is really good.
Quite handy.
So, yeah, I think, laughter itself is the best representation of the three principles. It's just, oh my goodness, it's so easy to laugh when we're in this community. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. That was just beautiful sharing. Absolutely beautiful. Yeah.
Thanks, Bobby.
Yeah. There's me and my two nieces and the lovely Julie who's on the screen too. Me and my two nieces live together, and then Julie just lives down the road, and we kind of run this business between us, run a little three principles practice here. And like you say, it's really, when Christian was kind of saying, about coaching and why would people have coaching, we are definitely each other's coaches, because there's always one of us that's kind of like, this isn't thought, something real's happened.
There are real. I've seen them today.
This is outside the principles, And the other two, there's usually one of us laughing, and another one will kind of say, right, okay, come on, I know how this feels. So it is that support network, and I feel like the community side of it, or having a coach, or having someone to kind of turn to when you feel like banging your head against a wall.
Yeah.
So thank you. Yeah, that's
my pleasure.
We have a lot of laughs. There's a lot of laughing goes on in our house a lot of the time. I can't get them to work at all. It's ridiculous.
No, I don't think so.
Something you said earlier, Christian, and at the time I thought, I'll ask you, and then it's completely gone. So if I can't remember.
It'll come back when you're not thinking about it.
Yeah, probably. Who knew? So has anyone else? Oh, Julie, the lovely Julie would like to ask a question. Oh, I think you were muted. I think
have you shut me up again? Oh no, I'm can you hear me now?
never shut you up. Never.
It's not really a question. It was just it's like you, Deb, Christian. So much of what you said resonated with me, and this search for your spirituality and doing all these different alternative therapies, and that sort of stuff. Oh, I'm unstable. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I am unstable. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't worry, there's lots of support here when you're having an unstable moment. You're okay.
Yeah. So, but what really dropped in there for me was when you referred to the potential, like when you're having a bit of a thought storm and you think, oh well, I should be able to get out of this, or I need to get out of this. But what I really like about this understanding is what you mentioned was this: you always know about the potential. That a new thought will come along, and I don't know. When you said that, I just suddenly thought, yes. It was just, I don't know, just something dropped for me, and I thought, and it just makes these ups and downs so much, because I always thought once I got the principles, life was just going to go doopy 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 doopy, all be happy puppy, this life. If anything, it got a little bit worse, and I've had my daughter on texting me tonight because she's starting to pick up a bit more about the principles, and she'd come to one of our talks last week, and she said, Mom, she said I got so really angry coming home from work. I had to stop the car and go for a walk. And she said, I'm just getting worse. And I thought, I so recognize that. I so recognize how, like, we think, oh, now I'm understanding this thing. It's, it is going to be so much easier. And then when you have this sort of thought storm or something goes wrong, it seems so much worse to start with. So yeah, having that feeling and knowing that there's the potential there, that it's just knowing that it's going to pass, and you have this new thought. So thank you for that. You just reminded me. I know what to say to her now in my next text. Thank you. And I love your story, Christian. It was brilliant. I love listening to that. It's really great.
Thank you.
That's Lily.
Have
A lovely morning.
Oh, Pocket M.
Hello, my darlings.
Hello, what?
Hello, my darling. How are we? Are we good? Are we really good?
Yes,
Are we
lovely.
better than good? Are we just amazing? Yes.
Oh, we're always amazing, yeah.
I always love listening to Christian, mainly because she's Scottish, but let's just not get into that.
Is this where you get the feeling of coming home from when you listen?
There's that real bond, that connection that you can't break. I was touched by your statement around your dad's passing, Christian. I had a very profound experience when my own father passed away, so I could relate to that quite easily. But I think for me, it's from what you were saying, the thing that has occurred today. From what you were talking about the up and the down and the up and the down. So I had an interesting experience last year, as most of you know, around breast cancer. And today was my first follow-on mammogram. And I went into freefall. So all of last year, I got the diagnosis, I had the surgery, the radiotherapy, and I was just fine. Nothing fazed me, nothing. And even the medical staff thought I'd gone into denial because I wasn't being impacted by, or not reacting in the way they were expecting. And yet today, so that to put it into perspective, after I finished the radiotherapy, there's only a 4% chance of me getting a recurrence of the breast cancer over the next 5 years. So in theory, I've got pretty good odds going on.
Yeah.
But today, as I sat in the waiting room, I'm thinking, and what if? What if they've got it wrong? What if they find something else? I never went into any of that thinking last year. Nothing. But it just proves the point that we're always in and out and in and out and up and down. And I just sat with it. And then I sent a text to my mate, the gorgeous Gillian Fox. And she's going, and you're okay. And I thought, bugger, I am. I'm just fine. But it was just when you were talking earlier around the kind of what you see now you might not see as clearly in the future or whatever. That's exactly what happened to me this morning. So yeah, I just thought I'd share that. But yeah, the whole experience of your father passing, I can totally relate to that. So thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. I think one of what you described is it does sort of just keep us human and connected and humble and all those things, you know, because it's just it is inevitable that we're all going to have our version of it at different times. And it also just occurred to me to say, Maureen, isn't it interesting in that this is still a small community, and 5 years ago my son went to university in Oxford, and he was in the department where Maureen is. I don't know if you've left, but yeah, I know
No, I'm still here.
I just thought, isn't that interesting? You know, we met a couple of times in Oxford, and just you know, this tiny community that we should find ourselves there. And I just love those little coincidences, and it was always nice, that sense that you were there.
Almost like we were connected to something, isn't it?
Yeah, almost. One could think that.
It was funny because when we went on our walk just before this call, we were having a conversation, and something yesterday had got to Beck a little bit, and it was like we were kind of saying, isn't it strange how all sorts of things can happen to us? You know, Beck is a very stable person. You know, she's definitely our little rock in the office, and it's really, really kind of funny how the silliest of things, almost, it's kind of like, whoa, there wasn't even anything big going on there. You know, it wouldn't be if it was things that got to us in that way. This definitely wouldn't have been one of the things, if you like, exactly the same as the example Maureen was saying. You know, you would have thought you would have been really in your thinking last time and feeling a lot more comfortable this time, and yet it's the other way around. And I think it's those things that remind us, like say, remind us that we're human, and remind us that this doesn't work the way we think it does. Because, you know, the things that we expect to upset us, so, you know, sometimes just don't have that impact on us at all. And other times, the silliest, someone can look at us the wrong way and whoosh, lost it. Yeah, it is strange, isn't it? So has anyone else got anything that they would like to share, or any more questions or anything for the lovely Christian tonight? Oh. You've satisfied everybody, Christian. You've been amazing. I think you totally and utterly pass you've got your lovely person badge. It's been really, really another one. You know, I've yet to find someone who messed it up that I'm kind of going, oh my God, don't invite them. Horrible. This community might be tiny, but it's squashed full of all the loveliest of people. Everybody is so giving, and you know, it's really lovely to hear different stories and hear, you know, when people come from, like, the principles to me are the one solution. They're the thing that all of us are searching for, even, you know, whether it's whatever words we put onto it. And it's, you know, it's really good to hear different, and you can kind of hear the sameness and the difference in what everybody says.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, you know, whatever our thing is that brought us here, we can hear that. So is there anything that you would like to share with anybody? Anything else that's occurring to you, Christian, before we wrap up. You're looking very peaceful there.
I am, and I don't think there is. You know, I could kind of try and dig something out, but it would feel forced and artificial. It has been a lovely call, and it's so nice to hear what everybody else has shared. It's so nice to see some of my lovely friends here tonight. So, yeah. Yeah, thank you so much for asking me. I feel really honoured, genuinely.
It's lovely to catch up with you, because it's been a while since we've actually had a conversation, really, isn't it? Like, we met all that time ago and had a few conversations, and I haven't seen you for ages. So I absolutely love having this excuse to just talk to these people, because we had Maureen on a little while back, and it was great to catch up, because I've met Maureen, and then it was a long time, and now we've met the lovely Bobby as well. We must keep in touch, and it's really good to connect and see people in this way.
Yeah, it's a great thing you're doing. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. So who's our lovely person next? Jacqueline. Oh, so yeah, next week we're going to speak to the lovely Jacqueline Hollow. She's another person that I met at Ticken and have kind of vaguely connected and haven't actually spoken to her for ages, and she's up to great things too. So it's going to be really, really good next week to speak to Jacqueline Hollow, see if she can get her lovely people badge, see if she's up to the mark. She's got a very, very high bar. And is there?
I'm sure that'll be great.
Oh yes, so if anyone is interested, we have a fantastic Facebook group where we share more of the stuff that you've been hearing about tonight, called the Here and Now group on Facebook. So if you want to join our Facebook group, please feel free to do so. If you live near enough in North Devon, we have our physical meetup where people can actually come into. Is that tomorrow? It is Wednesday today. Yeah, Thursday. I said the wrong night the last time. On Thursday, tomorrow night, we have a meetup in Barnstable. So if anyone lives near, Penny, be nice to see you there if you can make it. Yeah, it's always great to have people come along. It's nice to, if you can speak, if you can actually see a real person, that's really good. Anything else I need to remind anyone?
We're going to turn the tables, and you're going to be my guests on Supermind next month, I think, or August. Yeah, next month, August. So details to follow.
Yeah. So look out for that if you want to see us on the other side of the table. Yeah, look out for. Yeah, we might be those difficult guests. We
have ways of dealing with those.
No, that would be great. I will look forward to that indeed.
Me too.
So if no one has got anything else that they would like to add, I think that's been a smashing webinar. And like you say, it's there's sometimes that's it. That's enough, isn't it? That's perfect. So unless anyone else has got anything that they would like to say or share or anything, we will leave it at that tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good night, everybody. Take care. Happy 4th of July.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Christian. Bye.
Thank you.